So recently I've just started getting into Formula One and I came across a Polish Formula One driver called Robert Kubica, who I believe is Poland's only Formula One driver to win a race. So I thought I wanted to learn more about him, more about his life. If you're from Poland, tell me if you know him. Did you support him as a driver? How was he? And this one's called The Devastating Story of Robert Kubica. So interested to know what this is all about. Let's enjoy and let's learn. Tell me your knowledge of Robert Kubica.
Robert Kubica is by far one of the quickest and best drivers I have seen in Formula One. He is one of the biggest what-if stories in the sport and no doubt was destined to reach great heights only achieved by the most elite motor racing talents. Unfortunately for Robert, his career was cut short basically while he was in his prime and we never saw the guaranteed success that was coming his way. Robert Kubica began his F1 journey back in 2006 with BMW Sauber as a test and reserve driver. He quickly found himself lining up on the grid for his first race in Hungary after Jacques Villeneuve was unable to race due to experiencing headaches after his crash in Germany. Robert had become the first ever Polish F1 driver and qualified 9th, beating teammate Nick Heidfeld. Robert finished P7 in the race but was later disqualified due to his car being underweight. After Jacques Villeneuve's accident at the Hockenheimring and his struggle to properly recover, BMW Sauber and Jacques agreed to terminate their contract early. The team took into consideration the opportunity to put Robert Kubica in a full-time racing environment until the end of the season, giving him some decent experience before 2007, where they were likely to have him signed on in a full-time Formula One seat. In just his third race ever, Robert Kubica finished P3 at Monza. By now he had impressed just about everyone and was definitely one to keep your eye on as an up-and-coming talent in F1. Robert Kubica's 2007 season was a consistent one. Despite having one of the scariest crashes of all time in Canada, Robert missed the following race at Indianapolis and went on to score 2 consecutive P4 finishes in France and Britain. There was a sense that Robert Kubica was unbreakable. He was faced with what was the scariest crash of his career so far, but brushed it off like it was nothing and finished off the season in consistent fashion, finishing P6 in the standings.
He's actually a very good driver then. It's interesting.
2008 was where Robert turned it up. After retiring in Australia, Robert went on a little bit of a tear, finishing P2 in Malaysia, pole position and then P3 in Bahrain, 2 P4s in Spain and Turkey, a P2 in Monaco, and finally a win in Canada. The track where just 1 year prior he suffered the horror crash that still lives rent-free in our minds. After this, Robert led the Drivers' Championship. It was an emotional win and a feel-good moment for everyone. It's now remembered as one of the best redemption stories of the 2000s. This man from Poland came into the sport and just made a statement. He was by now someone who had everybody's full attention as a consistent performer and a solid racer with the skill and speed to match just about anybody on the grid. Robert remained consistent, scoring another 3 podiums, 2 P3s and a P2, finishing 4th in the standings, tied with Kimi Raikkonen. In 2009, Robert Kubica qualified 4th in Australia and according to BMW Motorsport director Mario Tyson, would have won the race had it not been for a crash with Sebastian Vettel. It was a difficult season for Kubica, struggling for pace since BMW introduced their double diffuser later in the season and reliability did him no favours. Robert still found a way, scoring P4 at Spa and a P2 in Brazil. BMW announced their departure from Formula One at the end of the 2009 season and Kubica found himself a free agent. Renault quickly realised that Kubica was indeed that guy and snapped him up. A prior relationship was there as Robert tested for the team during his junior career. It was reported that Ferrari had told Felipe Massa that he had until the British Grand Prix to prove his worth. Otherwise, Maranello was set to make their move for Robert Kubica, but Ferrari re-signed Massa for the 2011 season. Therefore, Kubica remained at Renault for the time being. Robert managed a P2 at the second round in Melbourne and 2 P3s in Monaco and Spa. Robert finished the season 8th in the standings with 136 points. Renault kept Robert Kubica for 2011 but rebranded to Lotus. On the 2nd of February, the last day of testing, he was the fastest driver.
Yeah, tell me more about him. He seems obviously an excellent driver. What was your favourite race that you've seen him in? Again, just like sheer great consistency, like such a impressive career up until this point.
Kubica had 7 hours of surgery after he was airlifted to a hospital near Genoa with multiple fractures and internal trauma. The Renault driver was put in an induced coma overnight. Kubica's surgeon said his life is not in danger, but it would take time for him to make a full recovery.
Just days later, on the 6th of February, Robert Kubica would take part in the Andorra Rally. Robert would leave the course at high speed and crash into a barrier. Robert was trapped for over an hour before he could be rescued from the car and was airlifted to hospital. The severity of his injuries was absolutely devastating. His right forearm was partially severed, and during surgery, some of his forearm was amputated. He had compound fractures in his elbow, shoulder, and leg with substantial blood loss. Robert's injuries were too severe and a timeline on recovery was unclear. Therefore, it was impossible to begin the Formula 1 season. He was released from hospital on the 24th of April 2011, and later, in November, it was confirmed that he would not be able to compete in the 2012 season. The crash was totally devastating. Robert's career looked to be cut short, and the fans never got to see him race for Lotus in 2012, when they produced quite a decent car that year. Just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, Robert re-broke his leg after falling at his home in Italy, which of course required more surgery. Robert would eventually return to motorsport, competing in Rally, GT3, LMP1 and testing a Formula E car at Donington Park.
Yeah, but with regards to the one he was in a crash there initially, the rally car, why was he in that? Did he do that like on the off season? Was there not like some sort of like insurance where drivers are not allowed to do any other driving or anything like that? I know that's a thing in football, like footballers outside of like playing for their team can't go and play like small matches, play with their friends, all this sort of thing in case they get injuries. Is there something similar in Formula 1 as well? Did he have that?
Robert's Formula 1 return would come in 2017, testing the Lotus E20 at Riccardo Tormo. This was his first time back in Formula 1 since 2011. Fans were extremely happy to see him back. Even if it was just testing, we missed out on so many years where Robert should have been racing. Renault even teased a full-time return, saying Robert still had it, was quick, and could definitely return to F1. On the 11th of October 2017, Kubica tested for Williams, driving the FW36 from 2014. He quickly became a real option for Williams as Felipe Massa was set to retire at the end of the season. He completed an end-of-season test and was 7th fastest. Robert Kubica would return to Formula 1 for 2018 as a test and reserve driver for Williams. He also revealed that he had signed a contract to drive for Ferrari in 2012, partnering Fernando Alonso. What a lineup that would have been. Ferrari clearly saw Robert's potential and knew what he was capable of. It's definitely a factor in all of this that makes it such a huge what-if story. I have absolutely no doubt that he would have done great things as a Ferrari driver. But in 2019, he would get a full-time drive alongside George Russell at Williams. It was pretty incredible to see Robert Kubica make a full-time return to the sport he was forced to leave back in 2011. It was another feel-good moment, but the car Williams produced that year was easily one of their worst. He scored just a single point, finishing 19th in the standings. Robert Kubica announced that he would leave the team for 2020 and went on to join Alfa Romeo as a reserve driver, where he still remains today. He stepped in for Kimi Raikkonen at the Dutch Grand Prix, finishing 15th, and again in Monza, finishing the sprint 18th and the Grand Prix 14th. In 2022, he took part in 4 free practice sessions. For me, I just cannot accept what happened to Robert Kubica. It's too much talent that was left untapped due to one horrible day in a rally car. He was the ultimate up-and-coming driver. People talk about the Max Verstappen level of talent and the potential these days. This is what Robert Kubica had. He was absolutely 100%, no doubt, that guy. Adversity was not a problem for him. We saw that after Canada in 2007. He returned just 2 races later like nothing happened, head down and ready to fight, straight back to work. To think of a Fernando Alonso Robert Kubica duo at Ferrari, to me, is just incredible. I think Robert could have done it all. Prime Robert Kubica would no doubt fight for a championship and in the right circumstances win it all. We all had some idea that Ferrari were interested in him, but when he finally finally confirmed that yes, there was a contract signed, it was simply a wow moment. It was the drive at a top team that he deserved. And even though Ferrari fell off in 2014, the doors that could have opened to other opportunities in the turbo hybrid era at different teams once again just has you thinking about what could have been. He is one of the drivers that I look up to the most. But for those who know, Robert Kubica will always be a Formula One legend in our book.
Yeah, excellent documentary. Go subscribe to that channel. I'll leave the link in the description. But yeah, I honestly had no idea how good he was. I've heard the name, and yeah, it's just what could have been. Like, such an amazing driver. Like, seeing that consistency every race, he was right up there. And the fact, yeah, it was in a rally car, it wasn't even like a crash. I mean, first of all, to come back from that crash in Canada, not just come back in that season, but to come back there the year after and win that. Incredible, like, mentality, desire, persistence, and yeah, what could have been with Ferrari as well. I didn't realise he was still involved today, so that's pretty cool, man. I'll try and learn more about what he's up to now, but tell me, if you're Polish, what do you feel about Robert Kubica? Is he a hero there in motorsports? Again, tell me your favourite memories of him when he was racing at his best. And yeah, tell me if there's any other amazing Polish sports people that I should learn about next. Thanks.